Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
The world is better when everyone has the freedom to authentically name and express themselves the way that feels the most audacious, biggest, most lit up version of themselves. And that gender freedom is for everybody.
You're listening to Make Some Noise podcast, episode number 529 with guest Rae McDaniel. Welcome to Make Some Noise podcast, your guide for strategies, tools, and insight to empower yourself. I'm your host, Andrea Owen, global speaker, entrepreneur, life coach since 2007, and author of 3 books that have been translated into 18 languages and are available in 22 countries. Each week, I'll bring you a guest or a lesson that will help you maximize unshakable confidence, master resilience, and make some noise in your life. You ready? Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am so glad that you're here. It's that time of year where you might be a little bit of, in like a frenzy. I know this very well. If you have children, it's winding down of the school year. Maybe you have someone who's graduating from, preschool, high school, college, whatever. It's just a busy time of year. So I see you, and I hope that you are taking care of yourself and getting some time to yourself. And maybe this podcast episode will be just what you need. Rae McDaniel is back, and I had such a great conversation with them. I can't wait for you to hear it. They have a book that's out, which I will tell you about. We'll talk about it in the show. And I wanted to just mention that I am filling my calendar for fall and winter speaking gigs. So if you are a part of a company that does trainings or events, I would love to see if I would be a great fit as a keynote speaker. So you can head on over to andreaowen.com/speaking and fill out the contact form there. And perhaps we can jump on the phone and see if it is a great fit. All right, let's get to it. For those of you that don't know who Rae is, Rae McDaniel is a non-binary gender and sex therapist turned coach who works with transgender / non-binary / questioning folks feeling lost while transitioning their gender identity. They are the creator of Genderfuck, the club, a one-of-a-kind, research-based online group coaching community of transgender, non-binary, questioning folks who are on a mission to transition with less suffering and more ease. Rae is the founder of Practical Audacity, a gender and sex therapy practice in Chicago. They also provide training for medical and mental health professionals wishing to up-level their knowledge in trans-affirming care. Rae holds a Master's of Education in Community Counseling. And even if you're not someone who is non-binary or transgender or questioning, definitely tune into this episode. We talk about things that are more general to everyone. And so I really do think that you'll enjoy it. So without further ado, here is Rae. Rae, you're back.
I'm back. I'm so excited to be here.
You're back with a baby.
I do, a brand new book baby.
Congratulations. Before we started recording, everyone listening, I've been gushing because it's so exciting. And I just love your work so much. And the book is called Gender Magic: Live Shamelessly, Reclaim Your Joy, and Step into Your Most Authentic Self. So this book is more than just talking about gender and people who might be questioning or transitioning, correct?
Absolutely. So the main audience is definitely folks who are exploring and transitioning their gender. And I wrote it very specifically so that an ally, somebody who has a loved one who just wants to learn more about gender freedom and how gender has impacted all of us, and get some key knowledge, skills, mindsets on how to support the people in their life who might be exploring or transitioning their gender, can pick it up and get a lot out of it personally.
I already know someone in my life who it's a friend of mine from my former family, from my first marriage, and their son, who was assigned female at birth, has transitioned, and he is now early 20s. And so I'm going to mail it to the parents, and then they can do with it as they please, but they're going to be really excited about it. So let's start. And we're going to just speak generally here, because a lot of my listeners struggle with things like self-doubt and anxiety and fear, which I think is all humans, you know?
Of course. Yeah. Very human condition.
But the human condition. So you talk about this in the book. So can you walk us through some steps, just, generally speaking, to be able to move from that place into a place of more confidence and what you like to say, like a proactive state of mind?
Yes, exactly. So what happens that I've seen with my clients and my friends and me personally, as someone who also struggles with anxiety, is that I get super stuck in my head. I think and I think and I think. I doubt myself. I don't feel like I can make a decision because I'm so caught up in the drama in my brain. Mm-hmm. And so what I teach is that we can build that confidence in ourselves and our ability to make good decisions by taking tiny steps towards what we're curious about. So in Gender Magic, I talk about this when it comes to exploring gender. And for example, somebody who might be interested, but not really sure yet about something like starting hormones. And instead of getting stuck in their head about it, I tell them to make an appointment with a doctor. Go to the doctor, ask questions, maybe even get.
So you don't need to make the decision ahead of time that you're going to do it or not. Okay, gotcha.
Not at all. We gain so much as humans by checking in with our gut and our intuition once we take a step forward towards something that we're interested in. And I'm sure people have had this experience of, if you flip a coin and while it's in the air, you're like, oh, I hope it's heads. Well, that tells you a lot about what you want. And that's the idea, is we build confidence and we can set aside some of that anxiety and self-doubt by simply taking a tiny step and actually checking in with our gut about what we feel when we do.
So it's the process rather than the result, is that you're talking about, I'm assuming.
Exactly.
I talk about this too. And because I work with a lot of people who come with pretty lofty goals. And hey, I'm all for a lofty goal. I'm all for like moonshot goals. Reach for the stars, everybody. And at the end of the day, say I'm working with someone one-on-one and they're like, okay, here's what I want to accomplish in our 6 coaching sessions together. And they're these just audacious things. And I'm like, I love that. And let's be realistic. Like, you are only one human who can accomplish only so much. Like, let's scale that back, because like you want to set yourself up for success too. Like, it's not just the moving to more confidence, but like that setting yourself up for success versus failure is huge.
Absolutely. And I think what we define as success plays such a role in that. You're talking about the process versus the outcome. If success for this person is, I'm going to get clarity and take these huge steps and set up some dominoes towards these big, audacious goals, that is a very different vibe than at the end of 6 sessions, I'm going to accomplish every large life thing I've ever wanted to do in my life.
It also points to, I think, that the curiosity aspect of it, which is when it's such a huge component of coaching in general, which I think is, something I talk about over here all the time, is getting curious about, and I want to underscore something that you said, how you feel during the process. I feel like we skip over that all the time.
Oh, we do. We do. And we make everything so serious. And I think especially in today's world, we've put anything to do with exploring gender into the category of big, serious thing. When in reality, exploring gender and so many other parts of our lives are just a part of self-growth. It's just a part of understanding who we are and how we want to show up in the world. So when we come at that from an attitude of play and curiosity, and I wonder if, or let's experiment with this thing and see how it feels. And if it feels like it's moving me closer to the person I am and the person I want to be in the world, then we take another step towards that. But when we come at it with curiosity and play, we also completely change the way that our brains interact with whatever it is that we're trying to do. And we take away the possibility of failure.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
Take away the possibility of failure. Yes, please.
Well, if you think about play as kids playing on the playground, they can't fail at that. There's absolutely no way. They're just playing. They're just experimenting. And if we view self-growth and the things that we're trying to do in our life more from a place of we're going to try something, and whether it has the outcome that we want or not, it's just data. It's just data for whatever our next tiny step is, or the next direction that we want to go with our life. And if it doesn't work, if the outcome isn't what you want it to be or what you hoped it would be, that's fine. You just try again, or you try something else.
It's more data.
More data. Only data.
Yeah, exactly. Well, kind of a side question that I have, this isn't on my list of questions I want to ask you, but I was thinking about your book before we started recording, and I'm just so happy that this is a conversation that's being had more and more. And, trans people and all the rainbow has existed for forever.
Of course.
And, I'm a Gen Xer, and I remember in mainstream media, the only things that were talked about in my childhood was, the AIDS epidemic, seeing, Pride, like only in San Francisco. I don't even know if they called it Pride back then, but that was kind of the only thing. And like now there's so many documentaries out there, and it's a conversation that's being had more and more. And I think Generation Z and Gen Alpha are going to really change the game. Do you, since you are, you're much in this world, do you think that changes are happening swiftly and quickly in the last decade or so, more so than they were happening before? And if so, and maybe even if not, like, are there any negative consequences of that?
I do think that changes are happening quicker. Like you're saying, not because trans and non-binary people haven't been here since literally the beginning of time,
right?
But we have more access to information. We're more connected now than we ever have been before, thanks to technology, the internet, thanks to people being more open, talking about their experiences with gender. And so we're seeing media catch up with what has already been there, has been there forever, but suddenly we're talking about it. Suddenly we're seeing more trans characters. We have more trans folks who are more visible. And that's amazing. Yeah. I've worked with many clients, and I love to bring this up because people think of, we have a wave of like younger trans people because they're understanding more about themselves from a younger age. But one of the things I've seen that has been really special is a lot of people who are older who are coming out as trans because suddenly there is more permission and understanding for them as well. And yeah, they feel safer doing that. On the other side of the coin, visibility doesn't equal safety. And we've seen that with this huge push of anti-trans legislation. I'm calling it now, transgender rights is going to be one of the premier moral issues of the 2024 presidential election. There is a lot of pushback from extremists on the right trying to take away transgender rights and people's autonomy about their own bodies. And that's terrifying. It's really scary. And at the same time, we are still in a place in our culture where trans people are visible and they are loud. And that I don't believe is going to change. And I think this backlash is just a pretty typical part of progress. We see that with any large social movement.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. I want to kind of shift back to the conversation just around personal development in general. And can you talk about navigating discomfort, sometimes massive discomfort?
Yes.
As people move into working on and hopefully celebrating their inherent worth and working towards a place of genuine authenticity and genuine self-love. Like do you have any tips on like handling that discomfort?
I do. The first thing to understand is that discomfort is not harm. And I want to hold that both within yourself as your own journey towards self-growth, and when you are interacting with other people and sharing more of yourself with other people. So internally, we know that any part of growth is going to shake up our system, right? It's going to shake up our own internal system and whatever family, friend systems are out in the world. So it's uncomfortable to stretch yourself, to try something that you don't know what the outcome is going to be, to risk visibility, to risk putting yourself out there in whatever way it might be, that it's a little scary and it's uncomfortable. But I like to describe it as that discomfort of stage fright versus, you're scared of the boogeyman under the bed.
Right.
There's a level of excitement to it as well. The piece about discomfort is not harm for others, I also think is really important, because in my work with folks who are exploring gender, with their families, with their loved ones, there's often a feeling from other people of, well, I'm being asked to change things, like change the name that I call somebody or someone's pronouns or how I refer to them. And that's uncomfortable. And therefore, I'm not going to do it because it's uncomfortable. Or a trans or non-binary person is feeling like they're a burden because other people have to shift their language or how they relate to them. And I talk a lot about the fact that it's not harm to ask somebody to call you by your name and pronoun or to refer to you and respect you for who you are. Those are very, very basic asks to ask somebody. But what is harm, what is going to actually harm you, is hiding who you are, is shoving down who you are, making yourself smaller in order to make other people comfortable. That is harm. And I think that is applicable, of course, with anybody exploring gender, but across self-growth, period.
It's really their way of taking up space and making noise, which can inherently feel like you might be rejected from the community or the family, which I'm assuming can just, trigger your survival instinct.
Absolutely. And I have personal experience with that. My family is not supportive at all. And that is hard. I'm not going to lie. That feeling rejection from other people simply on the basis of who you are is very, very painful. However, what it also does is create space for the people to come into your life who love you and see you for who you are today. And that is very, very special. Yeah. And I have been very lucky that I have a number of those people in my life. I'm surrounded by them.
Yeah.
But if I had stayed where I was hiding myself because I was afraid that I wouldn't be loved for who I was, or I'd be rejected by my family, I don't know that I would be here today. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, I want to ask you a little bit more about that, but we need to take a quick break. When we come back, I would love to dig deeper a little bit into that.
Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point of sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. With Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers inline and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. Get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone, transform your tablet into a point of sale system, or use Shopify's POS Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/noise, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/noise to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/noise. I have definitely been in that place where my paycheck ran out before the next one got here. Life doesn't happen bi-weekly, so why should payday? The money you earn can be in your hands today with Earnin. Earnin is an app that gives you access to your pay as you work, up to $100 per day or up to $750 per pay period. Just download the Earnin app and verify your paycheck. Then access up to $100 a day as you work and leave an optional tip. Any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck. You can use Earnin to pay for a girls' night out, a last-minute gift for a loved one, or even summer camp for the kids. Make Earnin a part of your financial routine and join Earnin's over 3.5 million customers who say things like, when I think about Earnin, I think about financial stability, security. It gives me a lot of peace of mind. Download Earnin today, spelled EARNIN, in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the Earnin app, type in Noise under podcast when you sign up. It really, really helps the show. Noise under podcast. Subject to your available earnings, location, daily max, and pay period max. See earnin.com/TOS for details. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank. Bank products are issued by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
Okay, before the break, you were talking about, how your family, and you talked about that a little bit in our previous episode when you were on, and I will link to that in the show description. And I'm imagining you now, and as someone who knows what it feels like to have something as exciting as a book come out, and also as someone, I think inherently, the vast majority of us, I make up, still want our parents to be proud of us, for these like big career endeavors or personal endeavors that we do. So my question is, because I know there's some people listening who maybe they've just moved and maybe they're boundary setters and they're kind of been labeled the scapegoat of their family or the black sheep, and people don't like that. Or maybe they've, transitioned, or something has happened where they are estranged from their family or have had to create like no contact boundaries. Do you still struggle with grief in that, or have you gotten to a place where it's dissipated? Like how has that journey sort of evolved for you?
I think the nature of grief is that it never completely goes away.
Yeah.
That it's always going to be there in some way. So yes, there is still grief and loss about that, and it's an ambiguous loss too, because my family is still alive. And if I wanted to, go home, I could physically do that. And it's very different to walk into a space where you don't feel like you are respected and seen.
Yeah.
It comes up for me, absolutely, but it's not something that I dwell on a lot. I have a lot of people in my life who are very proud of me, who love me, who I spend holidays with. I'm not wanting for family just because my given family is not supportive. And I think it doesn't do anybody any good to shove down feelings like, oh, I have moments where I'm sad that I don't have a closer relationship with my family, or they're unwilling or unable to meet me where I'm at or to appreciate who I am. That gets to exist alongside. I have a very robust, I call them my kinship network, a chosen family that gives me a lot of joy and pleasure, and feel very connected to them while holding. There's going to be moments when I'm with another family for Christmas where I wish that my family was able to show up in that way.
Thank you for expanding on that. And just, I want to underscore about grief and that it is something that just sort of, that's why they call it the grief cycle, because it just keeps cycling. I didn't know that. I thought like they completed the loop and then you were like, okay, I'm good. No,
I'm good.
Well, but speaking of relationships, you talk about this in the book. And can you give us a little snippet of how one can design relationships that light them up?
Yes. One of the things I talk about in the book, which people, when I've talked about it before, people get really excited about this concept, is how do we design intimate relationships of all kinds in our life beyond just romantic and sexual? Mm-hmm. So I think we often think about romantic and sexual relationships as our kind of primary core relationship, and everybody else is secondary. And I invite people into the idea in the book that our friendships can be just as intimate as our romantic or sexual relationships. Yeah. And that we get to choose, even though society doesn't, fully support this in some ways, is we get to choose how deep we want to go with people in our lives that are loved ones, regardless of what our relationship is to them. So one of the things that I talk about is, first of all, just talking to your friends about this and talking to your loved ones about this and getting curious if there is some sort of longing to have more connection with the people you already have in your life that you want to go deeper with. For example, one of my very best friends and I have talked forever about the fact that, if she had not, she's married now, but if she had not had a partner, that I would maybe co-parent her kid with her. I have other friends who are talking about buying homes together and creating a life together in that way that is more platonic. I have a friend that it's completely platonic friends, and we have a bath date every month or so. She lives in LA now, but we get on FaceTime and we
I thought you meant you took a bath together, and I'm like, okay.
Well, we have when she lived in Chicago, we used to do that. And it's something I love doing with my friends, like little kids. Yeah. It's like completely innocent and really nice. So I've done that with my friends, and now we do that via FaceTime. Mm-hmm. But this idea that there is a network of people out there that can meet our needs for intimacy, for connection, for love, for support beyond just what society has said is meant for a spouse or a partner or something like that. So a lot of curiosity and a lot of reimagining what relationships could look like for you that are truly nourishing in all the ways.
And it sounds like conversations about it. I've talked about this too, about people who are struggling in their friendships. And I ask them like, wait, what about your existing friendships? Are there any conversations that you might be able to have, albeit probably uncomfortable ones, where you more or less like ask them like, hey, what would you think of taking this friendship, quote unquote, to the next level? And like to the next level looks like whatever you want it to look like. And in coaching, they call that designing the alliance between a coach and a client. And I remember thinking when I was in training, what feels like 150 years ago, when they were talking about this designing the alliance with a client, I thought, wouldn't that be amazing if we did that with our friendships?
That's exactly it.
Just had a conversation of like, what is this going to look like? Boundaries, requests, checking in every once in a while, like so many things to cover there would be like very little assumptions or hurt feelings. And oh my gosh.
It seems like a wild idea until you actually think about it. And you're like, oh, you mean bring intention and communication to my closest relationships? Wow, what a wild concept.
Ask for what you want and then be open to hearing what they want. Yeah.
Oh, imagine that. Boundaries? What?
What is this you speak of? Well, so on that same token, can we take it a step further? And can you tell us, because this is also something you talk about in the book, like how do you design a sex life that lights you up, whether you are partnered or not?
Yeah. So I'm a certified sex therapist. So I talk about this stuff a lot. And I'm going to go back to what is going to sound repetitive, but it is because it's so important, is curiosity.
Yeah.
We often work from an unspoken rule book when it comes to our sex life, when it comes to how we show up in the bedroom, the roles that we take, the activities that we do. And a lot of us, and I have worked through this and struggled with it in my life as well, feel disconnected from our bodies for various reasons. I have a history of pelvic pain that I talk about in Gender Magic. I, as a trans person, there are some things about my body that I've had to kind of work through over time. And so there are a lot of barriers sometimes to actually being present in our own skin. So if we want to design a sex life that lights us up, it starts with getting connected to our body, even if we don't love every single thing about our body in every single moment. One of the things I talk about in Gender Magic is this idea of body respect instead of body love. Any of us on any given day might look in the mirror and not love every single inch of our body. And a lot of that is because of the cultural messages we've been given. They sink in and, they go in deep.
Yeah.
But what we can give ourselves every single day is body respect. We can show love and respect for our bodies and believe that our bodies deserve pleasure, no matter if we love what we look like or how we feel on any particular day. So I encourage people to start with their 5 senses and reclaiming pleasure equity, right? Because not everybody believes that they deserve pleasure in their bodies. When it comes to partners and having sex with partners, critically looking at, and when I say critically looking at, I really mean playing with, experimenting with, are there ways that we have taken on roles or we are doing certain activities just because we think we should or because we always have? What are our new ways that we might be able to experiment with pleasure? One of the things one of the tools that I give is a this or that game, which is super simple and exactly what it sounds like. You have a partner who maybe, for example, touches you in this way and then in that way. And then you ask, what do I like, this or that better? It's like when you're at the eye doctor.
That's what I just
this
thought
one. Yeah. It's like this, can you see? Or this better. It's exactly like that, where you're just kind of tuning yourself into, well, this feels a little bit better or this feels a little bit better. And then you build on that.
Or in which order do you like this and that?
Exactly.
I keep circling back to what you said about how pleasure is our birthright. You said something like that, and how sometimes we even forget that. I especially people who have been conditioned, which I think is most of us, to feel that sexual pleasure is either shameful or only, dirty, at best private, and just it creates this reputation, I don't have a better word for it, in our minds, and then it gets embedded, and then we have kind of issues when we grow up. And so I want to expand just on when you're saying start with your 5 senses, because that can bring you joy and pleasure that doesn't have anything to do with your genitals or sex. So can you say a little bit more about that and maybe some examples of how to incorporate that?
Yeah, we often think of pleasure or eroticism as just about, like you're saying, sex and sex in a very particular way,
right? Or
about our genitals, when in reality, it is about all 5 of our senses and being present. Audre Lorde talks about eroticism not as a sexual thing exclusively, but as energy, as creative energy specifically, an energy that connects you to yourself, that makes you feel alive, that kind of buzzy energy. and also energy that connects you to other people, that helps you feel connected to them. I think of, I saw this really beautiful dance performance recently, and it was incredibly erotic.
Mm-hmm.
I felt connected to myself. Like I felt the hairs on my neck stood up.
Mm-hmm.
I felt alive. I felt joyful. And, I'm nowhere near the person who is dancing, yet
Right.
I'm connected to that energy, to that sense of aliveness, to that creativity. So I think when we talk about eroticism and pleasure, it really helps to expand the conversation beyond, we're not talking about sex. We're talking about feeling alive and feeling good in your own skin. To really bring it home, if someone is interested in exploring this, I love taking pleasure baths or pleasure showers if you prefer. And what it is number one, you're already naked, so that barrier is removed. It is not about touching yourself in any sort of sexual way, but in taking the time to slow way down and feel different sensations in your body. If I could give you a pro tip, I really love adding a little bit of coconut oil to the bath. Most people have it already or can easily get it. You can melt it in your hand if you're in a shower, and using that as just another sensation on your skin. It feels a little bit different when you're touching your skin with coconut oil versus not. Set the mood. If you like smells, light a candle or incense, turn the lights low, turn on music, engage as many of your senses as you can with absolutely no agenda other than enjoying being in your body. That's it. There's no failure here at all.
Yeah.
It's just about enjoying being in your own skin because you deserve that. And it connects you to that feeling of being alive, which refuels you.
Yeah. I love that practice. It reminds me of, I heard something on social media and I can't remember who was talking about it, about taking showers in the dark.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, I think as dark as possible. And they said, where the soap is, but it's that it forces you to really feel the sensations on your skin. And I haven't tried it yet, but it made me think of it. I wanted just to say one quick thing, because you mentioned the word feeling alive several times. And over the last couple of years, I was talking to a very close colleague and friend of mine, Amy Ehlers, and I was telling her that I was feeling a little ashamed because when I would see movies or TV shows that depicted a man and a woman arguing like pretty fiercely and intensely, I would get triggered. And it was almost a positive trigger in that is the type of relationship I had previously that was in many ways toxic, but we were trauma bonded, basically, like, let's be honest.
Right.
And I said, I'm embarrassed to admit that there's a part of me that misses that. And she goes, oh, honey, I don't think it's that you miss the fighting. I think that was the last time you felt alive.
Oof.
And I was like, I started crying. And it was that the emotional, albeit an unhealthy one, it was the emotional intensity and connection that I would feel during those fights. And also we had a pattern where we would end up having like amazing sex afterwards. But that was such a pivotal moment for me in understanding what you were just talking about, of like that feeling of aliveness. And sometimes it's not connected to another person, it's just within ourselves, but it's just something I've been thinking about a lot. And like, how can I get that in other ways in my life without fighting with my spouse?
Yeah. And that's such a good question. And everybody's answer is going to be different. And the important thing is that this is a muscle, right? This is something that you can build, and you noticed. And that's always the first thing, is you noticed, hey, maybe there is some feeling that I'm not experiencing as much as I would like to. And you're curious about, what are the other ways that I might be able to create that feeling of aliveness? And it's like, counting the red cars on a road trip. The more you're looking for it, the more you're going to notice it. And when you notice it, you get to play with it. You get to build on it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. We're going to take one more break. And when we get back, I want to talk about, let's just talk about pleasure a little bit more. So we'll be right back.
Today's podcast is sponsored by MIDI Health. Ladies, are you over 40 like me and dealing with hot flashes, insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, some vaginal dryness, or weight gain? Don't just accept it as part of aging. These symptoms are often linked to hormonal changes during perimenopause and menopause. At MIDI Health, they get it. Their experts know what you're going through and how to help. MIDI clinicians are menopause specialists offering safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions. And guess what? MIDI care is covered by insurance. So stop pushing through it alone. Schedule a virtual visit and dive deep into your unique symptoms and health background. You'll walk away feeling heard and with a plan to start feeling better. Visit MIDI Health today and reclaim your well-being. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com. joinmidi.com. You know when you're listening to a song on the radio and you get the profound feeling that the song playing was written about you? Now imagine having the power to gift that same incredible feeling to someone you love with an original song from Songfinch that actually is written just for them. Songfinch lets you create an original radio quality song inspired by your own life and the people you love. It's completely unique, personal, and lasts forever. Whether your song is for Father's Day, an upcoming graduation, wedding, or anniversary, or even just a gift to show your loved one how much you care, start your song now to lock in one of Songfinch's top artists. I gifted Songfinch to myself, a song about my late father, and I'm so excited to play you a clip.
Flipping through the slides of learning how to live and how to love, and coming undone a father daughters without, so she writes it down.
One of my clients heard about Songfinch from this podcast, and so she had a song created for her son who was graduating, and she told me that they both cried when she played it for him and that it exceeded her expectations. For a limited time, Songfinch is letting our listeners upload their song to Spotify for free, so you and the lucky person you gift it to can listen to it anywhere, anytime. Go to songfinch.com/noise and start your song. After you purchase, you'll be prompted to add Spotify streaming for your original song for free, a $50 value. Again, my URL is songfinch.com/noise. Don't forget to share your song with us too. songfinch.com/noise.
Can you tell us some practical tools more specifically to align your gender identity and expression with your most authentic self through, I know what you talk about a lot, pleasure, play, and the 3 Ps, pleasure, play, and possibility?
Yes. So when it comes to aligning your gender identity with your expression, we're going to go right back to that play and experimentation. I talk about spaghetti wall mode, where, when you're cooking spaghetti, you throw it at the wall. If it sticks, great. You eat the spaghetti. If it doesn't, no big deal. You just keep cooking. And I view it like that, of it is all data, like we've been talking about. And it's data that we get by trying something instead of getting stuck in our head. So I tell people to start with what they know for sure or what they're curious about. So if someone says, well, I don't really know what my gender identity is or how I want to look or where I'm going on this journey, but I know that I like it when somebody uses they, them pronouns with me or, whatever pronouns it is, then you start there. You don't have to have all the answers about what it means. You just need to know what feels authentic to me now and how do I build on that? If you know that, hey, I really like wearing this particular thing, gather your support squad or one person and see what it's like to go on a walk in your neighborhood and that with them, as long as that's safe to do. Try going out to Starbucks or to brunch and using a name that feels good for you with the server or on your Starbucks cup. Start experimenting and starting where you are is definitely a core piece. And when you do that, you start building confidence in, okay, I gathered this piece of information. I gathered this piece of information. I've also seen a lot of people who are able to learn more about what feels good for them in their gender during sex or during any sort of kind of romantic relationship, where they have a partner who is willing to experiment with them with different roles in the bedroom, with wearing different clothes in the bedroom that maybe you don't typically wear. Sex is a really beautiful place where you get to imagine a lot as part of that experience. You can be called lots of different things that may or may not match up with your gender identity. And those can be really fun. I've also had people who made tiny adjustments in their sex life that really changed things for them. For example, a client who was having a lot of trouble with dysphoria about their chest. They didn't like how their chest looked. It was larger. So they experimented with wearing a tight sports bra or a binder during sex. And that really changed a lot of things for them and gave them information that they needed about what felt good for their body.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, if you had to sum up the book in one statement, and I know this might be really hard, but if you had to, what is the one thing you want people to walk away with?
That the world is better when everyone has the freedom to authentically name and express themselves the way that feels the most audacious, biggest, most lit up version of themselves, and that gender freedom is for everybody.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Is there anything you want to circle back to that we talked about that you want to either underscore or add onto this conversation before we go?
I think the only thing I really want to underscore is that this book is not just for trans and non-binary people. It's for anyone who is curious about expanding their understanding of how gender has influenced their life, of expanding their understanding about what would it mean to have a world where everybody had the freedom to be themselves, free from shame and free from fear. And I really want everyone, allies included, to join me in that mission.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So again, everyone, the book is Gender Magic, Live Shamelessly, Reclaim Your Joy, and Step into Your Most Authentic Self. Where do you want people to go? Do you have like special book bonuses? Where can we send people?
My hub is Instagram right now. So you can find me at the Rae McDaniel. That's Rae, Rae. And the book's website is gendermagic.com. And there's going to be all sorts of goodies on there.
I'm so excited for you. And by the way, we have a new cat and my daughter named her Rae.
Aw, I feel very honored.
She doesn't know you, but she's sleeping on the bed right now. That's what made me think of it.
Very cute.
Thank you so much for being here. Again, all of those links, including the previous episode that Rae was on, are going to be in the show description. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful for your time. Rae, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you got to come again to talk about this book. And remember, everyone, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. Bye for now. Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. I would be so incredibly grateful if you haven't done so already, if you could leave a review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Super easy if you already listen to your shows over there. But if you don't, or maybe you have the app on your phone, but you listen to the show on a different app, if you could leave a review for this show, it matters so much. I wish I could express how much it matters. I also wish that it didn't matter so much, but alas, it does. So if you haven't already, please go review and rate the show. It would mean so much to me. And thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day.
I'd like to introduce you to the Minimalist Moms podcast. It's hard enough being a mom, and the last thing you need is stress from too much stuff and an overcrowded schedule. For too long, I lived with the mindset that bigger was better, and the more I added to my life, instead of feeling better, I felt overwhelmed. It was time for a radical new mindset. Less is more. I'm not into extremes. I didn't throw everything away. My brand of minimalism is more about adding than subtracting. Get rid of the excess to make room for what you love. In other words, it's about living life with purpose. I hope you'll listen in, and my guest and myself can inspire you to think more and do with less. The Minimalist Moms podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts.